Welcome, guys, to podcast number 41 of Our Ketogenic Life. Today we're doing fasting part 2.
Yes, because we still have lots to talk about.
Lots to talk about. Last week we talked about 6 reasons to fast.
Yes.
So if you need to catch up, go back and listen to that. But today we're going to take a cue from one of our members in our Fat Burners Academy and try to explain exactly what is happening when you fast. So before we start, before you do any fasting, before you do anything, we want to make sure that, that you're healthy enough to do it.
Right.
You don't have any underlying medical problems, take, insulin and, have some chronic medical conditions. So we want to make sure that, that you okay this with your doc first and, walk with somebody who knows what they're doing as far as fasting.
And make sure that you realize as we kind of revert back to what our definition, fasting is not eating less, it is eating less often.
Right.
So we want to make sure if your provider, your doctor, nurse practitioner, PA, whoever it is, if they've never done fasting, if they don't recommend fasting, maybe you might need to educate them to say, listen, I'm not going to be starving myself, but just they know your medical background, and so just to reiterate that, we don't want anybody thinking you're just going to be starving yourself.
Right.
So that is not what fasting's about.
And the other thing too is I think what's important is to think of fasting, and when we go through the steps as far as what's happening to your body, you're fasting for a therapeutic reason.
Right.
It's not just fasting just to fast. It's not something that we just do it because it's trendy right now because everybody's doing it.
Right.
But you're actually going to learn today some of the things that is happening in your body and why it is a positive thing and not a negative thing.
Right.
So if you've never fasted before, a lot of times it's easier if you're doing a ketogenic diet to begin with because of the reasons we'll talk about as far as like being able to get the energy that you need. But when you first fast, the first 4 to 8 hours when you fast, your blood sugar starts to drop.
And let's just start off, back up just a little bit. Let's say you quit eating dinner at 7 o'clock. So you're starting your fast, we just go ahead and say it's 7. I mean, I know, unless you know that you just finished at 8, but say you finished eating dinner at 7. Let's just make let's make it simple and say 6, because that's kind of easier.
Okay.
So we stop eating dinner at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And then you're not eating anything else.
Right.
So from 6 o'clock, let's just say 7, 8, 9, 10. So from 10 to 12 that evening, or 10 to
like 2
12,
in the morning.
Yeah. What is going on then? So let's just say we finished eating at 6. So already, you don't have to think, well, I've got to wait till the next day to start fasting.
Because you started fasting.
You're starting fasting.
And whether you know it or not, you fast anyway.
Right. When you're sleeping, when you're, whatever you're doing.
So you go a certain amount of time without eating.
Yeah, that's just what we mean by fasting is going without food.
So what happens is your blood sugar starts to drop.
Right.
And because you're not getting any food.
Right.
Now, if you're somebody like us in the past, we used to try to eat every 3 or 4 hours, and we kept making our blood sugar go up, our insulin go up.
Right.
And that's something that we found out is probably not the best thing.
Right.
So the first 4 to 8 hours, your body, your blood sugar starts dropping, and also that means your insulin level starts dropping.
Right. And of course, which we don't have to get into it today, of course, this might be another podcast on what you eat, that last meal at 6 o'clock.
To prepare yourself.
What that blood glucose and your insulin, the difference it makes from what you've eaten.
Right.
So, but anyway, that being said, 4 to 8 hours after you've had your 6 o'clock meal, this starts going. Your blood glucose starts lowering. Your insulin starts lowering, okay?
And then usually by 12 hours, your whatever you ate in your stomach is usually gone.
So that's 6 a.m. the next morning.
Yeah.
You've been fasting already 12 hours.
Right.
And you're probably really not even, most of it, tried. Some people, depending on what you ate for dinner at 6 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock at night, after that starts lowering, sometimes we're like, oh, I've got to have a snack before I go to bed. And I used to be like that. You could go on to bed
I slept better without eating.
Because you could, even if you were hungry.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I was like, I cannot sleep when I'm hungry. And I still don't like to go to sleep hungry.
Right.
And I don't necessarily anymore because I've changed what I ate for dinner.
Right.
But you know, that does make a difference, you know, on how you sleep and everything. But again, we'll get into that another time. So by 6 a.m., you've already went 12 hours.
Right. So you've done a 12-hour fast.
Already.
Now, you know, a lot of people wake up and eat breakfast just because
it's habit.
It's because that's what they told.
And that's breakfast is break
your
fast. It doesn't matter when you eat breakfast. It's when you break your fast.
Right.
So when people say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, well, it kind of is if you think about
because
you're breaking your fast, you know. But anyway.
So you're at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. So that's 12 hours.
The stomach is pretty much empty, and you still need some fuel. So if you're not doing a ketogenic diet, what happens is you start maybe getting hungry because you need energy, and your body's not used to burning fat at this point.
So it's looking for that energy to come in.
Energy. Yeah. So that's another reason why we recommend doing the ketogenic with the fasting, because your body starts learning to burn fat. But anyway, around 13 hours or so, your autophagy starts to go up.
And we talked about autophagy a little bit last week.
And it's about, you know, regenerating your cells. So your body doesn't have to. Yeah, it doesn't have to deal with food yet, so it can repair itself. And also, your growth hormone starts to increase. Now, a lot of people are surprised at this, and that's one reason why I like to work out in the mornings after doing a fast, because actually your growth hormone goes up. And your growth hormone, of course, like, it builds things like your muscles and things like that. So your growth hormone starts to increase. So I used to get up and work out, but I'd have a pre-workout shake, I would have a post-workout shake, and all this food that would go into my stomach. Now I work out at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. fasting, and I use the advantage of the growth hormone going up, and I can still do my workouts. My workouts are better now than they've ever been. So that's one of the advantages of working out in the morning, is because you take advantage of your growth hormone going up, and it usually starts around 12, 13 hours after fasting.
Of course, you got to work your way up to that. Most people can't just decide you've been eating a standard American diet. Tomorrow you're going to eat, you know, standard American diet, and they're like, oh, but I'm going to fast into my autophagy and work out.
Right.
You probably won't feel real good.
No, because you're not used to it.
Yeah, you're not used to it.
So
that's why people say, I don't know how you do that, I'd feel terrible. Well,
that's a sign of something.
Yeah,
so 13, 15 hours, your body starts burning fat. You know, you start producing ketones. And we use these ketones for energy instead of using sugar. So there's something called gluconeogenesis, and that's when your body starts making glucose. That's gluco. Neo's new, Genesis is the formation. So you're starting to make new blood sugars out of the ketones, and that's where your energy comes from. So you start using this ketone bodies as energy instead of sugar, and that's where you get your energy from.
And when we're talking about, like, what, 10 a.m. in the morning still?
Yeah, so 13 or 15 hours.
It's still early, you know.
12 hours was
8
6.
to 10, yeah. So
3 more hours is 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning. So
it's still early
in the morning. Yeah.
So
you're fine.
Yeah.
You're getting your energy from where it needs to come from. You're burning your fat, and you're getting good results.
And by fasting, like, we get in this again, like, because some people say, well, what breaks your fast? You know, can you have this many calories? Can you have this many? Can you have, you know, usually what we try to start off with is, you know, like, you could have, you're used to drinking, like, coffee. Stay away from the sugar sweeteners,
right?
Because that will break your fast. You know, I guess the theory is anything under, I think, was it 50 calories? It depends on what the calories come from, like fat. Like, some people put real heavy cream,
right?
And supposedly that does not break your fat because it's fast, because it's fat,
right? And that's good,
right? Or some people put seen the bulletproof coffee. So that's usually like a heavy cream or butter or an MCT oil. Those are fats, good fats.
Correct.
And are not going to break your fast.
Right.
So I just drink my coffee black. You don't drink coffee. So, but if you wanted to have water, but again,
Water's fine. Hydration, good.
Don't drink anything that's a protein shake or that's going to add any kind of sugar or calories or anything like that. Some people are thinking, well, I'm just used to drinking. I'm not eating anything.
Right.
But you're still putting those sugars or something like that in your coffee or in a drink.
Right. And your body doesn't recognize if it's a food or a drink.
Right. Exactly. So we just want to make sure that you realize that.
Okay. So we're at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
or 10, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and your ketones are getting produced. You're burning the energy, stored energy. So around, a lot of times what we recommend is people do like a 16-hour fast. Right. So that means you're eating at quitting at noon. We also recommend for some people, and it depends on where you're at and what your goals are, is to continue with the fast. And we've done this before as well. So around 17 to 24 hours. So anywhere from noon until 6 o'clock the next day. So it's almost like a 24-hour fast. Your body starts to detox. Right. It starts getting rid of the things in your body that's not good. And if you remember about autophagy, it's a repair. It's getting rid of all those things that your body is trying to get rid of that aren't good, that it couldn't do before because you kept eating. Your glycogen stores, they go down, and that's your stored energy, and that's where your ketones come in as increased production. So you're actually producing more and more ketones and getting energy from that.
But by noon, most people, especially, you've done an 18-hour fast from 6 p.m. till noon the next day. Correct. That is a 18-hour fast. Right. And so, that, a lot of times people can't imagine going that far, but even if you did like 10 a.m., that's, like a 16-hour fast. Right. So like I said, all the different things you've got going on that your autophagy has already kicked in, like I said, your fat burning, has kicked in. If you can make it to 16 to 18 hours, that is really getting a lot of benefits. Because most of the time, some people, you're going to start feeling some hunger pains by then. Even those of us who are experienced fast, usually around, again, a lot of times it depends on, for me, what I had the day before. But if I didn't have quite enough fat, maybe my protein was a little bit low also. It really depends. But a lot of times you're going to start getting hungry. Right. So when you first start feeling those hunger pains, it just depends on what your goal is. Right. If you're wanting to make it a little bit farther, sometimes hunger pains, as we've talked about in the past, you're ghrelin and when you're thirsty, but all the different, your hormones. Sometimes are spiked. So, if you can say, okay, am I really, really, really hungry? And do I want to break this? That first little hunger pain. Right. Or are you going to say, let me see if I can press on just a little bit longer? And
it goes back to your goals. We talked about, not just doing fasting just to be fasting, but therapeutic. Right. We want to do the fasting for a specific reason. And if we're trying to detox our body and to body repair itself.
Detoxing from things like sugar addiction.
Or just, plastics.
Plastics.
Things like that. So if you have that mindset that you're going to break through this at noon and keep going on a little bit longer, if you have the mindset that you're doing it for a reason, not just because you're depriving yourself, then sometimes it's a little bit easier because you have a goal in mind to get there. Right.
You're not trying to fast. Again, we want to go back to people who have who've maybe had an eating disorder in the past. Right. Again, talk to your doctor. Know why you're doing it. Right. We don't want to, cause any problems. Again, it is though when you push past that hunger, that little bit of hunger. You might be thirsty. You might be bored. It may be, it's noon and everybody's eating and it's time to eat.
Well, then also when you talked about ghrelin is with the hormones, they go up and down. Right. It's not like a steady state of this ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, is being produced. It spikes up. It spikes up at noon. It spikes up in the evening time. And then a lot of times, if you've noticed, sometimes you got busy during lunch,
Right.
and it's 1:30, and you
Like,
realize
I didn't even eat.
I didn't eat anything, and you're not hungry at that time. It's because the ghrelin is going down.
Right.
So it's all hormonal.
Right.
And again, we're not saying you have to do a 24-hour fast every day.
No.
Doesn't mean you have to do a 48-hour fast. Doesn't mean you have to do an 18-hour fast.
Right.
But if you can do it for a reason,
Right.
it's a lot easier to get through those times.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
All right, so we're at 16 to 24 hours. We talked about your body detoxing, your glycogen stores are being used up. And then if you press on after that, we do a 24-hour fast every Sunday night to Monday night. So we do this every week, and we do it for our spiritual reasons, things that we're praying about. And then it also helps with our body as far as our detox and things like that. Sometimes we've even went on.
Yeah.
You do 24, you do 36 hours.
Yeah. And that would be like to the next, like if we did Monday from Sunday evening, say 6 to Monday at 6 is 24. So, usually by the time the clinic, by the time we get home and stuff, it's, after 6, usually around that. Then if we made the next day till noon, that's a 36-hour fast, right?
No, it's
Huh?
till 6.
No, till Tuesday.
Till Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. is 36 hours.
Oh, 36. Then, a lot of times till noon then.
And then you go to 42.
42, yes.
And then this Tuesday evening will be 48.
Right.
So
yes.
if you get...
Math was not my strong suit.
Okay. So if you get up past 24 hours, and a lot of times, what's amazing is if you press on after 24 hours, when you wake up the next day, which on our example would be Tuesday morning, actually your hunger hormone goes down.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. I usually go till noon because I'm not
easy.
Hungry at 6 a.m. Even if I hadn't, it's just not, like I said, I just can push past that.
Right.
And it's usually, by noon on Tuesday, then I am like, okay, I'm ready to eat.
And then a lot of times, even when you press on till noon, your hunger goes down.
Right.
Your body and the things we'll talk about actually ramp up. And a couple of the things that really ramp up is the autophagy goes up, and then your inflammation goes down. And again, we've talked about inflammation many, many times on here. So if you're thinking about, your body repairing itself, if you have a lot of inflammation, if you have any kind of diagnosis that end in itis, arthritis, myalgia, which is not arthritis, but anything that have inflammation with it, then pressing on sometimes will help with that.
Yeah.
So again, we're not going to start you off on a 24 or 36 hour fast.
We would not recommend that. No.
Actually, when we start people off on our Fat Burners Academy, we don't even have them fasting for the first week or so until they get their body used to something else as far as a different diet.
Right.
So then we add the fasting, and then later on we'll add increase your hours.
And you may be somebody that you don't need to fast for, body reasons necessarily that often. Maybe that you don't do it every day or every week, or especially we'll go, of course, maybe in the next time. That why are some reasons why women maybe shouldn't fast
that's probably
certain times. Yeah, that's another podcast. Us women, we've got our own issues, but why, depending on, are you still in childbearing years? Do you still have, a cycle? Are you past a cycle?
Right.
There's times when you may need to not fast.
Right.
Of course, like I said, for spiritual reasons, there's nothing wrong with, once a week. Doing that, praying, and so it's not necessarily, again, what we've talked about. The Lord already knew, though, when He says when you fast, not only for the spiritual benefits of the communion with the Lord and really seeking Him to meet your needs, even when those hunger pains hit you. He has the physical.
And that's something that, we just started figuring out as humans in the last several years.
Right, yeah.
But, of course, God knew that all along.
Right, yeah. So, but it goes back to, again, when we're saying fasting, we're not saying that you got to do it every week. Don't start it out if you're not used to it. You've got to know your why. Why you're doing it. So we're just giving you some information that is out there that we are always learning.
Right. So kind of to recap with this, some people, well, let me go on, and we'll talk about some more things later on, is, some people do like, a 5-day fast.
Right. Water fast.
Yeah,
like
water
they drink
fast. So
water.
there's a lot of different types of fast out there, and we're going to go over that probably on our next podcast. But here, what we want to is to get the point across is what's happening inside your body. Have a therapeutic mindset as far as why you are fasting, not just because we told you to, or you read it on the internet, or some friend did it. If you understand why you're doing it, it's a lot easier to do, and it becomes just a way of life, because if you do a 24-hour fast like we do once a week, then we know we are detoxing our body, and we're getting more autophagy, more cellular repair.
We're getting our body metabolically sound.
And hopefully that means later on, years down the road, we're going to be more healthy than us not doing it.
Yeah, right.
So that's our whole goal with this.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's helped. This was a great question by one of our members to bring up as far as like what happens with your body, and hopefully it's benefited you as well.
And we can talk about fasting for many podcasts to come, because we will talk a lot about it. But again, we just want to go back to, get your, body first ready to be able to fast. Yep. So don't just jump in and then say, oh, it didn't work for me.
Right.
Well, there's a reason that it didn't, because you're not ready for it. So anyway, all right. So if those of you who stayed with us to the end, you know that we want to end our podcast with a Bible verse, and today, and I know we've given this one before, but it's one of our favorites.
Yes, it is.
Proverbs 16:3. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and the Lord will establish your plans. So whatever you're doing, when you're committed to doing things the way that the Lord wants you to do it, He's going to direct you in how to do it. If
you don't know what to do, just pray, Lord, whatever it is,
give me wisdom, direction.
Give me wisdom, what I need to do. Commit to Him, and then He will establish your way. He will establish your plans.
Yeah.
So often that we want to know what the next step is going to be, and we're probably as guilty as everybody as this. But if we will commit to ourselves to saying, okay, Lord, what do you want us to do? What is our next step?
And you're committing to His will.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
That's the hard part, because we want to do what we want to do.
Exactly. And we say, Lord, here's my plan. Now you work it out.
Yeah.
That's, that's not the way it works. It is you commit to the Lord.
Right.
That means you are in His Word. That means that when He says something in His Word to do, to not do, that you're committing to the Lord.
Right.
And then as you're committing to the Lord, like I said, then your plan becomes His plan. His plan becomes your plan. It's like what you want.
He changes your heart.
Exactly. So your plan of what you're wanting is what His will is.
Right.
Because you're wanting to please Him, and you're wanting to serve Him, and His ways become your ways.
Right.
The more you get to know Him. And the way you get to know Him is so easy. It's His Word.
And also if someone tells you something and you think that's from the Lord, go to Scripture.
Right. Don't ever let anybody say, well, the Lord told me to tell you.
It doesn't line up with Scripture. That is the first one.
And the Lord doesn't have to tell someone else.
Right.
He's going to, there may be somebody say, well, I've been praying for you, and, I wanted to talk to you about something.
But make sure you,
right.
Check it with the Scripture first before you do anything.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, guys. Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. That was great. We'll see you next week. Remember, be fit and be faithful, guys.